Hi everyone, this is Danielle Delaquilla coming to you live from I'm in Maine today on a very warm summer New England day. I hope you all are staying cool wherever you are. I'm here today to talk about 5 tips for a healthy vegan diet. This was one of the things that came up after my last Facebook Live that I did about a week and a half ago, and I wanted to address this since it was something that came up kind of immediately afterwards, and I've seen it also on Dr. Jocker's YouTube page. So without further ado, I'm going to begin. I hope that some of you will join me in this conversation today. Just a little bit of background. I myself followed a vegetarian diet for 14 years. So I was vegetarian from when my first pregnancy began. Hi, Rosa. Rosa Patricia coming in from New York City. Oh goodness, Rosa, I hope it's cool in New York City. I know it can be really, really hot there in the summertime. But anyways, back to my discussion here. Yeah, I was a vegetarian for 14 years. What happened was during my first pregnancy, I actually started becoming really turned off to meat. And at the same time, my best friend had become a vegetarian. And so I kind of thought, maybe I'll give this a try for a little while. And long story short, I was vegetarian for 14 years. I raised my girls in their early years as vegetarian. Which I will say quite honestly, there is a little bit of regret there because now they're pretty hardcore vegetarians and my philosophy has changed through the years. So I don't necessarily believe that a vegan diet is the best, healthiest way to go. However, there are things that you can do, and that's why I'm here to help you. There are things you can do both with supplements and with making sure that you're getting enough of certain micronutrients as well as macronutrients that could be a little bit challenging for a vegan diet. So after I started studying gut health, which was probably about 6 years ago, I decided that I was going to adopt more of an omnivore type of diet. And for the past 6 years, I've been omnivorous, but I am very choosy as to which animal products I do consume because I think that that is extremely important. So without further ado, let's get into my suggestions here. Getting enough protein. So when someone's not consuming eggs or dairy or any sort of meat products, this could be very tricky to make sure that you're getting enough protein. Vegetarians, of course, would consume eggs and dairy, and a vegan wouldn't consume these. And an omnivore would consume all of those things plus meat. So if you're following a vegan diet, you just need to make sure that you're getting enough protein. And what is enough protein? I would say for the most part, on average, depending on your activity level, but on average, I usually recommend 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So you have to do a little bit of math. You got to go back to those 4th grade math skills and try to figure out how many pounds you are. So in order, how many kilograms you are, because usually we go by pounds here in the United States. So you take whatever your weight is and you divide it by 2.2 and then multiply it times 1. So it's essentially that same number. And that will be the amount of protein that you need to consume in a day. If you are someone who lifts weights or someone who is a long distance runner or someone who exercises probably more than 1.5 hours to 2 hours a day, I would probably recommend raising that protein need a little bit more, like probably more 1.2 to 1.5, depending on your activity. And if you're someone who sits in an office all day long, isn't very active, then you could probably go a little bit less, like maybe 0.8 grams per kilogram of body weight. So the next thing I want to talk about, hold on, I'm just going to show some more people who are talking here. This is Deborah Melanson, also tuning in from New York. That's great. Let's see. Greetings from Sweden. Awesome. Thanks for joining us, Colette. Happy you're here. So the next thing I want to talk about is getting the right types of protein. So, we talk about complete proteins, and complete proteins is basically ensuring that you are consuming all the essential amino acids. So people talk about complementary proteins, the whole idea that people of Latino heritage consume usually rice and beans together. And the reason is together they make a complete protein. It's really difficult to get a complete protein unless it's from an animal product. One possible source of a complete protein is actually soy. But if you follow Dr. Jockers to any extent, you would probably know that soy isn't always a recommended protein as far as vegetarian sources of protein go. Reason being, it can mimic hormones. It's a phytoestrogen. So if someone is a male and consuming too many phytoestrogens, they could develop female attributes. It can also mess around with a woman's menstrual period. So those are things to be important to pay attention to. One other thing that I want to say about soy, really the only way that we would recommend using it would be in its fermented form. So something like tempeh, organic, non-GMO tempeh would be a good source of soy protein. That would be a complete protein. Another one that's one of my favorites is miso. Miso is fermented soy also. You can consume it with some hot water and make a soup out of it. You can add it to your soups. It's delicious. I add it to dressings sometimes when I make salad dressings. So lots of good quality protein. Some other sources of protein that we like to recommend would be hemp protein. So you got lots of good omega-3 fats in there, as well as good, more complete protein, brown rice protein, and then pea-derived protein. So our gut healing protein that we sell on our website is actually derived from pea. So that is a great, great supplement to help you heal and seal your gut lining if you're interested. And if you're interested in purchasing it, please feel free to use my discount code nutrition10 to save 10%. Let's see. Is there anything else I want to talk about? It's for getting the right types of protein. I think that's it as far as vegan diet sources go. You're going to hear this one time and time again, probably in everything I begin talking about, is consuming enough fats. I think in most everyone's diet, except someone who's super hardcore ketogenic, this is where we lack, is not getting enough fats in our diet. So this is really important because of satiation, because it gives us the right amount of energy. It helps us not store body fat. It helps us utilize these nutrients for our caloric needs on a daily basis. So that's some of my favorite reasons of getting enough fat. And how many grams of fat per day is a good plan? Well, grams of fats are a little bit hard, but I would say at the very least in your diet include 50% of your calories from fat. So if you're consuming a 2,000 calorie a day diet, then 1,000 calories per day from fat would be a great suggestion. And let's see, math wise, if we go 1,000 calories and we divide it by 9 grams per calories, look at that, my favorite number. 111.1111. So it's 111 grams of fat per day minimum on a 2,000 calorie a day diet is what I would recommend. The next thing I want to discuss is consuming the right types of fats. And what do I mean by the right types of fats? Again, if you have been watching Dr. Jockers for any period of time, you will notice that some of his favorite fats include coconut oil, avocado oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, nuts, seeds, olives. Of course, if we were not talking vegan sources, we would also add ghee or butter, eggs, things like that. Even some types of lard are also recommended. But for the sake of a vegan diet, we're going to stick to coconut oil, extra virgin olive oil, avocado oil, nut butters. Those are the things we want to talk about. But things that we want to avoid are those more processed, highly industrialized oils such as canola oil, soybean oil, corn oil, anything that's made into a margarine, any man-made margarines. These are all things that oxidize quite easily in our body. They're unstable. They're high in omega-6 fatty acids, which leads to way too much inflammation in our body. And that mostly has to do with the fact that we're not consuming enough omega-3 fatty acids. So omega-3 fatty acids are also difficult to get enough in our diet. Not the omega-3s themselves, but actually our body doesn't use the omega-3. It actually needs to convert it into DHA and EPA in our bodies. And we're not so efficient at doing that with plant omega-3 foods. The conversion is quite inefficient. So if it was just straight up needing to get enough omega-3s in our diet, women need about 1.1 grams per day and men need about 1.6. And that's really only like a half ounce of walnuts or flax seeds or hemp seeds or chia seeds. You can also find good quality omega-3 foods in different seaweeds, leafy greens, cabbage family type vegetables, and believe it or not, winter squash. So it's ideal to be able to get a significant amount of this in your diet. And when you are a vegan, it can be difficult to do so. One thing that I came across on my research is that they are now making some omega-3 vegan supplements. And unfortunately, we don't carry them on our website quite yet, but I want to talk to Dr. Jockers about possibly carrying these because I think it's great. It's from marine algal. It's a marine algal source of omega-3 fatty acids, and they are more efficiently converted into the DHA and the EPA. So I would highly recommend finding one of these types of supplements if you are concerned with not getting enough omega-3s in your diet. I do know people who've been vegan for long periods of time. Their skin starts flaking. It's mostly skin issues that you see omega-3 deficiencies in. So if you have any of those symptoms, I'd highly recommend trying to pay attention to this. And then my last point is to supplement with a good quality B12 and B6 supplement. Reason being is that B12 is not found in any vegetarian source product. Some people will say, well, what about yeast? I've seen it that it's in yeast. And it is added to things like nutritional yeast, not in significant quantities as far as I know. So with every vegetarian that I work with every vegan that I work with, I do recommend taking a B12 supplement, actually a B complex supplement. Just make sure that the B12 is in methylcobalamin form. Methylcobalamin is the active form of B12, and that's the form that you want to take. Many supplements that you'd buy at like your local drugstore and maybe a place like GNC that wouldn't have as good of quality of these supplements will have B12 in the form of cyanocobalamin, which actually breaks down as cyanide in your body. So I highly recommend not doing that. We have a great supplement on our site. It's called Be Strong. We also have something called Methyl Power, but I do not believe, I can't remember right now, but I don't believe it contains the B6, but it does contain B12 as well as the methylated form of folate. But I really like the Be Strong because it contains a really good quantity of the B12 as well as the B6, and it's well absorbed into the body. So I'm going to go over and see if we have any other comments that I want to address right now. Let's see, grams. Cindy is asking how many grams of fat for weight loss? Well, Cindy, as I mentioned before, you want it to be at least half of your calories. So we're talking, if you're on like I never recommend going too low in calories. So I really would never recommend probably going below a 1,500 calorie a day diet. So if you did 1,500, half of that would be 750, And as far as grams go, divide that by 9. We're talking about 83 grams of fat per day. And I would say that would be minimum. Hope that helps. Let's see, we have Elisa from Portugal. Happy to see some people from Europe joining us today. That's really exciting. Let's see. Becky is asking if people need digestive aids. It really depends on your gut issues and whether you've had any gut infections or not. There are tests that can show you whether you have the appropriate amount of pancreatic enzymes and how efficient they are at doing what they're supposed to be doing. Generally, digestive aids don't necessarily hurt anybody. But if you have had a gut infection, I would definitely recommend doing that. All right. So feel free to add any questions to this. Cindy is saying, thank you. You're welcome, Cindy. Add any questions to this program. I will answer it at a later time. Happy to answer any questions you have, or you could shoot me an email, nutrition@drjockers.com. Have a great day, everyone.